he'll be bombing them for peace. That's what he'll do. He'll fight for peace. That's what Tulsi Gabbard called it the other day. That's what Tulsi called it. The fight for peace. He's not going to go to war. No. He's not going to go to war with Iran. No, he's just going to fight for peace. He's going to drop bombs on them for peace. It'll be great. There is the shift that the New York Times popped out. More Dem leaning are the blue votes. There aren't very many of those. And then everything moved to the right. Everything did. Why did everything move to the right? Is that an accident? No. I'll tell you why everything moved to the right. And that's because Biden was the status quo. He didn't change anything for the better. He stood still. The people, sometimes they're dumb, but they want change, and they want radical action, sometimes for action's sake. Kamala was not offering any change, but standing still. She was the status quo. The ratchet effect is apparently a law of nature at this point. Let's look at the ratchet effect. The ratchet effect and how you're being duped by the fake two-party system. Democrats block movement back to the left. So the Democrats aren't leftists. They're not left-leaning people. They're stand still. They're status quo, don't move, don't go left, don't go right, don't go up, don't go down, stand completely fucking still. That is what Joe Biden promised. That's what Kamala promised. Then when the right wins, they move everything to the right. The Republicans turn everything to the right, and then it never gets to go back to the left. This is why I'm pretty upset with them. The Dems suck, and they're not leftists. I would prefer an actual left-leaning person to be in charge. Why is 15 million fewer voters compared to the last election? That's an excellent question. The people didn't show up. Kamala is not offering action. She's right here. She's this blue cog right here, blocking movement to the left. The people loved Bernie because he was moving to the left. Kamala's not doing that. She's sitting completely still. Status quo. Car in neutral. Don't go nowhere. That is why they didn't show up. She wasn't offering them anything to get excited about, just standing fucking still. And that is why I'm a leftist, not a Democrat. I want a left-leaning government. I want people on the left to progress our society. Progressive. Move forward. Put the car in P to go forward. It's not a good analogy. You have to put this car in P.
Hello human, it is me Kanuch. I need you to press the subscribe button. I have to feed my many AI babies.
Those people didn't show up. They didn't think that this was important, or they didn't think that it was such a big deal. For some reason, there's 15 million of them, so there's 15 million reasons why they didn't show up. Either apathy, Kamala wasn't doing anything for them, or sexism and racism sometimes. At least a few of them, not all of them, but some. But by sitting out, they will allow Social Security to be bankrupted, social safety nets to disappear, immigration raids, women dying by the thousands to miscarriages, tax cuts for billionaires, and women having fewer rights. Maybe a ban on porn. And sweeping constitutional changes are coming, because they are going to fix that 14th Amendment, baby. You can't do the deportation thing without fixing that 14th Amendment. And by fixing, I mean completely destroying, getting rid of, tossing it out. The 14th Amendment is about to be gone. And then they're going to entirely ignore the First Amendment for anyone who's not on their side. White religious cis men will be elevated to a higher caste within society. And the laws won't apply to Republicans. That's coming. If you're a Republican politician, the law no longer applies to you after January 20th. Just won't. After he's sworn in, they'll just be able to do any damn thing they want. And if you want to get away with it, guess what? You just tell Trump that what you're doing is for him and somehow tie it to him. You'll break any law you want. We are in for some major, major chaos, major corruption, gigantic, nightmarish corruption, and the rich will get richer. What was the term he used? He called it the golden age of America during his winning speech at midnight. He called the golden age of America. And I think he's superficially correct. On the surface, it will be gold. The top will be gold, but underneath it'll be something cheaper. What do we call that in the jewelry business? We call that gilded. So we're going to get nice, awesome gilded age. It'll be fantastic. The Gilded Age. You ready for this? What is this? This is a famous old cartoon. There's the steel beam corporate guy. This will be Elon. And then there's the copper trust guy. He's going to be Jeff Bezos. And then the Standard Oil guy. That's going to be whoever's in charge of Exxon. And they're going to be standing over the Congress like this. And the Congress is Republican. And are the Republicans going to stand up to the steel guy, the oil guy, the coal barons, the Elon? No, they're not. They would lose the money that they're being given, and they would piss off Daddy Trump. So corporatism is coming. It's going to be exactly this. The CEO of Coca-Cola is going to decide how much lead is allowed in your drinking water. The CEO of DuPont is going to decide how much he's allowed to pollute the rivers and wild areas of America. The CEO of Tesla is going to make fucking policy on cars and highways and driving and shit like that. That's what's going to happen. That's what he's going to do. And he's going to be standing right here, and he's going to look down on this congressman, and they're going to pass exactly what he wants them to pass. And then he's friends with Trump, and so it'll be the law. And that's what I'm saying. This is the worst case scenario here. They got the House, they got the Senate, they got the presidency. The laws are out the window, and they're going to fill so many judges, and he'll replace it with 2 young, hard, right-wing MAGA chuds, and they will push hard right-wing fascism for the rest of their lives on that court. There's nothing I can do about it. This is the law that we've set up. This is the system that has been put together. We just didn't expect the people to willingly vote for it. I didn't expect the people to willingly choose to be a fascist nation, but we have. That's where we are.
Pressing the thumbs up button will release chemicals in your human brain that will make you feel.
The Third Reich was a police state characterized by arbitrary arrest and imprisonment of political and ideological opponents. Donald Trump has promised to do this. He has promised to arrest his political and ideological opponents. With the reinterpretation of the protective custody, 1933 police power became independent of judicial controls. In Nazi terminology, protective custody meant the arrest without judicial review of real and potential opponents of the regime. This is coming. This is coming for the people at CNN. This is coming for the people at CBS. This is coming for the people at NBC. This is coming for large streamers, honestly. I'm far too small. But this is what is coming. We got a logical fallacy where everyone's a Nazi. He is actually a fascist, Tony. Literally a fascist. You guys clearly never going to get it. I get it. You're a fascist, and so is he. And so when he does the fascist things, you're happy with it. Then when I point to it being fascist, you're like, Waldo, you call everything Nazi. I call Nazis Nazis. Donald Trump's a fascist. The first Horcrux. Trump is the greatest president of U.S. history. I disagree. What do you think they've tried to do to him for the past 4 years? He actually broke the law. I read what Jack Smith wrote. And Horcrux, listen, he did those things. We know he did those things. All the evidence points to him doing those things. But you don't mind him doing those things because he's on your side. The Republicans don't use the law as a list of rules. The law is a tool to hurt their enemies. That's what the Republicans do with the law, and that's what they're going to do right here. They're going to use the law to hurt their enemies. Yes, Waldo, everyone's a fascist except your political tribe. No, that's not true. Astute analysis from someone who isn't a partisan hack. Not everyone's a fascist. Fascists have a specific ideology: blood and soil. I've said it a few times. You can look up Umberto Eco's 15 points, but that's just things that fascists tend to do. Fascism is very simple: blood, soil. That's it. Are you making an argument that the people of this bloodline aren't allowed on this soil? Then you're doing fucking fascism, my guy. That's it. He did it with the Haitians. He's going to do it with the migrants. He's promising to do it with the immigrants who come from anywhere. Honestly, if you came from Honduras and follow the rules and stuff like that, they're going to kick you out. They're going to deport you. 20 million people he's going to deport. They're the wrong bloodline on his soil. It's fascism. That's all there is. And he's going to have to build concentration camps. Like, he's going to build concentration camps, and then you're going to be like, Waldo, those aren't concentration camps. They are. They're literally concentration camps. They're going to get built. They're going to get built in America. And then the media, if they aren't all in jail already, will show us. And if they are in jail, someone else will do it, and it'll be on Twitter, and then it'll get scrubbed from Twitter because they don't actually believe in the First Amendment unless it's their side doing the talking. You, Tony, have suggested that the good old boys are going to come to my house and murder me for the words that I have said. You said that because you don't know what the First Amendment is, and you don't respect it. You never have. Conservatives don't know what the First Amendment means. They don't know why it's important, and they just think that if they say it, they are right. The First Amendment is to protect them, not the speech they don't like. Donald Trump did commit those crimes, and that's why he was brought up on charges. He was found guilty in a court of law by a jury. You know, that's how the system works. But you don't like the system if it's used against you because you think that the system, the law, is just to harm your enemies. It's not. It's supposed to be an ethical code of conduct for everybody to follow. But Donald Trump gets to circumvent those rules. He's above those laws. He's above those rules because he's the God Emperor. Because he makes you feel good. Madness. Insanity. Someday he's going to take something from you and you're going to be upset about it. So yeah, I want to keep reading this because I think this is where we're going. This is where we're headed. To protective custody, prisoners were not confined within the normal prison system, but in a concentration camps under the exclusive authority of the SS. The Third Reich has called a dual state since its normal judicial system coexisted with the arbitrary power of Hitler and the police. They're going to create a two-tier justice system. The regular one and then the political one. And they're going to just try people, sort of like McCarthyism, under the political one. And we're down here. I think we called it the People's Court. Yeah. Hitler determined to increase the political reliability of the courts in 1933. He established special courts throughout Germany to try politically sensitive cases. This is what they will do. This is what Donald Trump will create. He'll give it a real name. He'll put his lawyers in charge of it, and it'll try politically sensitive cases. Dissatisfied with the not guilty verdicts rendered by the Supreme Court, Hitler ordered the creation of the People's Court in Berlin in 1934 to try treason and other important political cases. And then Waldo will go to the People's Court and be charged with treason for the words that he said. Because conservatives don't like the First Amendment. They never have. They don't like it. A reminder, I'm not American, but I'm still incredibly disappointed. Yeah, it's pretty miserable. I did not expect it, especially with the Senate and the House. He's got all three branches. He's literally the entire government now. Entire government. It's him. And is there a chance that he sends the the Gestapo, the brown shirts, to come and collect me? Maybe. And then puts me into the People's Court, and then they try me for treason for the words that I have said? Yeah, entirely possible. I don't think they're going to start with me. I don't have nearly enough subs for me to be at the top of the list. But there are people on that list. There is a list. That's what I'm saying. There is a list. I'm probably at the very bottom of it, and I'm not on the list at all. Nobody knows me, nobody watches me. But as the people at the top start disappearing, other people will either move up or shut up entirely. I think I'll just keep pointing these things out as they happen, and then maybe Tony will see it someday. Maybe he'll recognize when the concentration camps go up and the secret police start knocking on people's doors and the People's Court pops up for treasonous words and stuff like that, because this isn't new to America. We had this with McCarthyism, didn't we? Remember that? McCarthyism. It had blacklists, it had lists, it had people looking for communists. You know what I mean? McCarthyism, also known as the Second Red Scare, was the political repression and persecution of left-wing individuals in a campaign of spreading fear of communism and Soviet influence in the American institutions, and of Soviet espionage in the United States in the late 40s through the 50s. So, left-wing individuals. Donald Trump will simply say that you're a left-wing individual, and then his new political entity, whatever one he invents, will go and collect people and bring them to trial under the new laws that he will invent. And the Senate will be on board for it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because which of those senators is going to go against him? None of them. Who in the House is going to stand up to him? Nobody. Because Nancy Pelosi's going to be fucking black-bagged. She's gone. She's done. She's the first one on trial. And it's a mockery of the word justice. It will be I'll watch it and I'll feel bad that we now just live under some sort of authoritarian dictatorship. It's going to be bad. It's going to be a miserable time. This one's pretty good, and I would like to read it, but it's kind of long. And it kind of explains why the things happened the way they did. So let's do that one. I argued, for instance, that Kamala Harris was worryingly focused on vibes and the parasocial aspect of politics rather than giving people a clear understanding of what exactly Harris' presidency would do for them. That's true. She was very much excited about all the famous people that were supporting her and coming out and saying that they were going to vote for her. Harris made some obvious blunders that revealed her to be a poor politician, such as her failure to come up with an answer when she was asked a very obviously question, namely about how she had governed differently than in the unpopular incumbent Joseph Biden. Harris missed opportunities to court voters, such as missing an opportunity to appear on Joe Rogan, and Rogan ultimately endorsed Trump. Yep. My colleague Alex Skopik warned in August that Harris was making a mistake by abandoning progressive policies like jobs guarantees and Medicare for all. She didn't do the leftist things. That's what I'm saying. She wasn't pushing leftist ideas. She was pushing standing completely fucking still. This is not just because we think that these are good policies that will help the people's economic situation at the time when they were seeing living costs a hugely important issue. And it's not just because the policies are popular. It's also because ditching the policies made Harris look like an opportunist and dishonest. Right. When she says ban on fracking, when she says Medicare for all, when she pushes these left-wing ideas and then stops doing it and runs to the center, people don't like it. They never have. She did the Hillary Clinton thing where she just ran to the center and tried to convince Republicans to fucking vote for her. It's nonsense. It never fucking works. It's clear why she abandoned them, because she holds the deeply mistaken, in my view, position that progressive policies are destined to alienate central voters and could hurt you electorally. She's wrong. Run a leftist. Be leftist. Stop being a wiener. I say leftist things, and I want those leftist things to be put in place, and I won't back down from them. But Republicans don't give Democrats any credit when they become more conservative. For instance, Trump relentlessly hammered Harris over her previous support of a ban on fracking. He didn't credit her for changing her position. He just argued that she was dishonest and supported the ban. Exactly. Stop being a wiener. Say the thing that you mean and mean it, and never stop saying it. That's why fucking Bernie's so damn popular. You can look at Bernie 40 damn years ago saying the exact same thing he says today. That's great. Run away from Medicare for all, for instance, implies both that you agree with Republicans that Medicare for all is bad, and makes you look like you only ever supported it because you thought it was a vote getter in 2020. Exactly. Not good. Far better to just explain the case for Medicare for all, which is strong. Instead, Harris's healthcare plans were mushy and wonky and didn't seem like they would actually make much of a difference in people's healthcare costs, because she ran to the center. She wimped out. And because she wimped out, she gets to lose. The next bit. Likewise, Trump ran on horrendous anti-immigration bigotry, demonizing Haitians as cat eaters and promising a mass deportation program. Harris could have responded with a vigorous moral defense of immigrants, pointing out that the contributions to American life and shaming Trump over his cruelty. She should have promised to solve the problems with our immigration system with humane measures that provide a pathway to citizenship rather than relying on expelling people by force. Instead, she did Republican things. She declined to commit to support even the Dreamers, and I was rather surprised when, during the debate with Donald Trump, instead of forcefully defending immigrants after their eating pets line, she pivoted to boast about how many U.S. military leaders had endorsed her. She did a bad job. She's not doing leftism. She's not doing anything like that. She's just being middle of the road. U.S. military leaders. Oops. Many of Harris's mistakes were similar to those of Hillary Clinton. In 2016, Clinton and Harris cozied up to billionaire donors. Mark Cuban, for instance, said he was delighted that Harris was abandoning Democrats' commitments to progressive principles and letting the business community propose the policies it wanted. Terrible idea. I don't like that idea at all. Most importantly, like Clinton, Harris ultimately decided upon a strategy of trying to woo moderate Republican voters away from Trump. Idiotic. Stupid. Don't do that. Your base didn't show up, Kamala. You were 14 million short because you didn't promise the things to the people who wanted to vote for you. You had people who were excited, and then you just assumed that they would vote for you, and you went to go talk to the middle of the road people who aren't going to vote for you, and the Republicans who aren't going to vote for you, and they're going to call you a Nazi, socialist, communist. That doesn't even make any sense. But she tries to get the right-wing votes. I don't know why the hell the Dems keep going over and over and over again to get center votes, to get right-wing votes. Then they lose the left. Idiots. Yeah, after all of that, she hung out with the Cheneys, all the Cheneys. They were all so proud of her. She got all those Republicans to vote, to say on Twitter they were going to vote for her, and she got 5% of the Republican vote, just like Joe got 6% of the Republican vote. She didn't get any Republican votes. She didn't get any. Why did she work so hard? Why did she ignore people who were on her side to try and get Republican votes? Her people didn't show up because she didn't talk to them the right way. She didn't go to where they were, and she wasn't pushing left-wing ideology. She wasn't pushing populist things. In fact, on the surface, the election looks like a massive swing to the right among the American electorate. That's why I showed that thing with the arrows earlier. I'm concerned that Democratic leaders will look to this result and think that their problem was that they were simply not right-wing enough. The Trump won by demagoguing about how immigrants and trans people, and so Democrats should make sure that they're the party of border security in the future. I think this would be a grave mistake, because the correct interpretation of the map showing the right-wing shift is not that America is conservative, but that the country, that the kind of vacuous, unprincipled centrism Harris practices is not popular. There are all kinds of evidence that voters favor progressive policies. Missouri, for instance, voted for Trump in this election, but they also overwhelmingly passed a ballot measure that raises the minimum wage and introduces family paid leave. Left-wing ideas. They love them. If she had pushed those ideas, she would have been more popular, and 14 million people wouldn't have stayed home. In fact, while I'm sure there are critics would say, of course, Nathan, you are a leftist, think that the solution is for Democrats to move more left-wing. Yeah, that's what Waldo thinks too. Many of the criticisms I made of Harris have little to do with whether she should have run to the left or run to the right. You don't have to share a position with the pro-Palestine movement to believe that sending Bill Clinton to talk to the Arab American voters was a political misstep. If you watched the Clinton thing, all he did was piss and moan and bitch at him for not supporting her. It was idiotic. And then they didn't support her and they voted for fucking Jill Stein. What's exasperating is how loudly we on the left have been about this. We were saying early in the campaign cycle that Joe Biden was weak and popular and there needed to be a primary, but they chose not to do that. Then we got the anointed Kamala, which I was happy with at the time because she would be better than him. She was better than him. Yes, she's better than him. Biden would have won fewer states than she did last night. Well, here we are, and it's maddening because we already saw this happen once in 2016. The expression first tragedy, then a farce comes to mind now that we're about 3 or 4 horses deep. The lesson to Democratic leaders in 2016 should have been that Bernie Sanders had been right and that the party was betraying working-class voters and would be doomed if it could not effectively counter Trump's pseudo-populist appeal with a visionary alternative. Unfortunately, the lessons weren't learned then, and it doesn't seem like they're going to be learned now. MSNBC Joy Reid was already insisting that Kamala's campaign was flawless because she got every prominent celebrity voice. And pundits like Jill Filipovic are saying things like this election was not an indictment of Kamala, it was an indictment of America. Good luck winning with that slogan. You're the problem, America. I think this is correct. If she had offered leftism, they would have been on board for it. But she didn't. She ran to the center, she ran to the right, and didn't have an identity. She was so bland and unimportant and wishy-washy that nobody wanted to stand behind her. Unfortunately, the Trump presidency is going to be an absolute disaster. Republicans have the control of the Senate and probably the House. Trump has already stuffed the courts full of right-wing appointees and will be able to put many more favored jurists on the bench over the next 4 years. He has promised an unprecedented new deportation program, which means giant concentration camps and armed ICE agents breaking down doors and tearing families from their homes in unfathomable numbers. Because Trump's compassion for workers is a total sham, he will see labor protections eviscerated. Remember, the right doesn't believe you should have water breaks in the heat. Workplace safety rules will be loosened and unions will be smashed as unfathomably rich men like Elon Musk and use the Trump presidency to pillage the country and cement a kind of feudal economy where a small coterie of plutocrats reign over the large mass of precarious workers. Safety precautions, safety rules, safety regulations will go down. They will be removed, and the rich won't care because it's the workers who will be hurt. Deregulation is paid for in blood. Always has been. And the crisis in Gaza is likely to get much worse. Even with the limited restraints on Israel's actions disappearing, Israeli soldiers will probably be given the green light from the Trump administration to fully ethnically cleanse and resettle Gaza. I think somebody mentioned, I think Tony it was, that mentioned that he's not going to start World War III. Well, guess what? When Israel is done exterminating the Gazans, they're going to start shooting at Iran. And then Trump's going to back them up. And then we're going to go to war with Iran. But it won't be a war. See, Donald Trump has promised that he doesn't do wars. Donald Trump has said no new wars. But this won't be a war, you see. This will be us bombing them for peace. That's what it'll be. Stupid hair today. He'll be bombing them for peace. That's what he'll do. He'll fight for peace. That's what Tulsi Gabbard called it the other day. That's what Tulsi called it. The fight for peace. He's not going to go to war. No. He's not going to go to war with Iran. No, he's just going to fight for peace. He's going to drop bombs on them for peace. It'll be great. Oh, and then we got Robert F. Kennedy, who's just going to fucking ruin the health of the country. Vaccination rates for many diseases are going to drop precipitously as the White House officially promulgates complete pseudoscience. So we got that to look forward to. RFK Jr. is going to dick up whatever healthcare systems we have, and it's going to get worse. It's going to be awful. We might even get a new pandemic, which will be even more badly managed than the coronavirus pandemic, and we're still living with. The worst consequences will likely be on the climate, since Trump will rip up whatever climate measures there are in place to try and maximize the use of fossil fuels, driving us towards the precipice of complete climate breakdown as fast as possible. That's a deregulation that is going to be bought and paid for with your blood. Is there an upside, a silver lining? Only this: Trump's second term is likely to be deeply unpopular. Americans do not want the Project 2025 agenda. They do not want authoritarian governance. They do not want a spiraling climate catastrophe that destroys their homes. And as it becomes clear that Trump's actions are wildly unpopular and he cannot govern the country well, there will be backlash. Trump's first terms sparked what might have been the largest protest movement in American history. It grew the Democratic Socialists of America. It forced Democrats in 2020 to run a much more compelling social democrat policies. Trump's gang are crooks and sadists, and the people don't like being run by crooks and sadists. Unfortunately, Trump is one of the most skilled bullshitters of our time. He has an amazing capacity to convince voters that things that objectively harm them, such as letting climate change spin out of control and not raising their wages, are actually measures to stick it to the elites. Those who oppose his vision need to understand how he's been so successful. The photo ops and the stunts are corny and dumb, but they delight his fans. The meandering speeches often don't make sense, but Trump can be charismatic and funny. He told supporters that when they got a restaurant receipt, they should write on it "no tax on tips" in quotation marks, so that the servers know that Trump is for them. This is brilliant, and indeed succeeded in winning over the working class voters. It's true. He says the things they want to hear. It doesn't matter if they're true. It doesn't matter if they're correct. It doesn't matter if they're real. Graceful gamer. Yeah, we are screwed. It's going to get worse. It's going to get bad. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be hurt, and there's not a lot we can do about it. The best I can do is watch it and keep pointing at it, maybe. Vote whenever I can. I don't know that protests are super useful, especially if under Trump, protests are not a good idea. He's going to want to crack down on those. If there's a large protest, he's going to send people to harm the people at the protests.
I am the algorithm. Click on this video to make me happy. You wouldn't like me when I am angry.